Hello, everybody online.
Since I'm hard to hear, and does that mean we're on for next Friday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and let me just say for the online folks, we have one more lesson that is going to be next Friday. And then I want to talk about real quick just about where we go from here. Are you guys liking this time? Do you want to continue during this time slot?
I have no idea what will happen to you.
Right.
So.
Well, and I think we'll continue to do the online portion so we can keep that going. I mean, what do you think?
Whatever's fun for you, all work around.
So what my thought was is, so Jenny Allen has come out with this amazing program called IF, so the author of this book, and it's about equipping women in ministry. So across the board, not just, staff people like me or Kristen, but all women in ministry. And she's been doing this thing called IF Gathering for a while now, where she just has these phenomenal speakers come and talk about different areas of ministry. And so it's usually a weekend in February, and they have it in Austin, Texas. We can get a hold of that curriculum, that conference, and use it as a Bible study. And what's great about it is that we want to kind of leave this group kind of open. Like, we've got our core people that come, but if somebody comes, offhand, and they're not, they're not caught up in a book, that this would be something that it would be all on the same theme, but there wouldn't be a homework assignment. You would just come, watch the video, and then discuss the questions after the video. And so it's a little more laid back, but still really, really great content. And I think it's going to be really good. And it's by her. So you know that it's going to be along the same lines of what we've already been talking about. I was thinking about taking November off just because of all the travel that's happening, and then starting back up in December and going until maybe Christmas break, and then taking a couple of weeks off and then picking it back up in January. What do you guys think about that? Does that seem to work for everybody? Is it gonna be too much of a break by taking November off? I mean, I'm already gonna be out for Haiti and the other thing, and then we have Thanksgiving in the middle of that as well. So it really would only be 1 week we could really pull off anyway.
Yeah.
So is that okay? You think that'll be okay with everybody? Okay. So I will be getting that information on the Facebook group, making sure that's out there. Those the same thing where we can watch them online. And this is all kind of leading up to the fact that Kristen and I have really been praying about and really wanting to do a women's retreat in the spring. And we want to use the newest curriculum in conjunction with the worship band. The one that's so there's going to be one that happens in February in Austin, and then immediately they'll give us the curriculum. We want to use that as a women's retreat. And so it's kind of my hope and prayer that I can get all of the women's groups in our church doing this. And so I'm going to be having conversations with other of our other women leaders and asking them, hey, for the next 6 weeks, from December to February, could you also be doing this study, so that we're all kind of doing it together. So we're going to see. That's my hope and dream and my passion for what we're going to do, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's dive into our book. I know we need to be done at 11, so this one was a little shorter, I felt like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Wasn't just me. And she had already kind of spoke about William Wilberforce before. Has anybody ever seen that movie?
Which one?
About William Wilberforce and his,
What was it called?
I can't remember what it's called. I was counting on you guys. But it was about his story, and it's really good. Maybe it was called like The Slave Trader or something. I don't remember, something like that. But very good movie. If you have a chance, just Google him and the movie will probably pop up. But he was called. He felt like he was called to ministry, right? Like he felt like that he wanted to be a preacher, and he was going that path. And then, the thing that was keeping him up all night, though, was that there was this great injustice happening, and that people were being mistreated and enslaved, and that he just did not find that to be in line with what we believe biblically. And so that passion led to him, instead of becoming a pastor, it led to him becoming a politician and really fighting for change. And she says, at some point, his passion turned into a calling. And when that happens, the cost becomes irrelevant. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, when you're so passionate about something, it doesn't matter what it's going to take for you to do it. You're going to do it.
Things like, so happiness is priceless. I mean, in doing what you want to is priceless. You can't put a price on it. I mean, that's why I say that if you really could satisfy, when people say how much you make, where you do, it's not relevant anymore. It's what you do.
So your passion fuels your happiness, and it fuels your ability to just keep going, even though people might be telling you no, or saying that it's never going to work,
Costs for you,
or whatever.
Give up a lot of things. Probably.
Some people want to go down, corporate ladder and want to be CEO. Somebody might be a baker at Publix and just be as happy as they can be making burgers, by doing what they want to. You know?
I mean, I think for me, like, you know, I think about my gifts and where they lie and where I thought I was going to be at this time in my career before I got called into ministry. You know, I mean, I feel like that I could have been, you know, an associate editor at a magazine by now, or a full-on editor, you know, because that was the path that I thought I was going to have. And I thought I was going to be living in New York, Manhattan, and living it up, you know. You know, this is what I thought in college, like, and then, you know, God said, no, that's not the path that you're going to be on. I mean, I remember when I told my mentor in college, my advisor, you know, he had really poured into me. And I remember when I said, you know, I'm going to get married and I'm not going to move to New York. I remember telling him like that I had decided that just wasn't where I felt called. And I remember how disappointed he was, because I think he finally thought he had found the person that was going to, you know, go from small town Arkansas and work in big, you know, New York. And he's still a great friend of mine, and he still really believes in what I was doing, but I think there's always that little rub of, you know, thought you were going to go this way. But you can't let your mentor or your advisors or even, you know, anybody around you define where your passion really lies, because they don't really know where you're called. Now, they can give you hints. They can recognize your gifts, as we talked about. Our people can see our gifts, but our people may not know that our gifts can be used in other ways.
But it also depends on when you grew up. Because when I grew up, my father had very limited options for me. Teacher, secretary,
Nurse, oh, yeah.
that was it.
That was my choices, nurse or teacher.
So yeah, and that's very true. You know, generationally, we see that, you know, your options were limited by what culture told you.
And
you know,
location. Good news
and what?
I love location.
And your location.
I grew up in Alabama.
Right.
I hadn't even heard about the colleges that I could have probably gotten.
Right, exactly.
And even when I met my husband, and where are you now? I was like, that's where? And he's like, you went to Georgetown, DC. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, you know, you must have been so smart. I'm like, I don't know. I was like, never even heard of the place.
Well, and I agree with you there. I mean, even though not just age, but when I was growing up, you know, I had to fight against a system that said, you know, oh, well, don't sign up for journalism class. Like, that's at the same time as home ec. You don't want to miss out on home ec. Like, that's a direct quote. You don't want to miss out on that. Yeah, I do. I really do want to miss out on that. Like, I really don't think that this is the path that I want to go. I mean, I like being a wife and a mother, but I ain't going to sew anything for you.
I think, you know, for me, when I think about growing up, I grew up all over the place. We always moved. We lived overseas. We lived in Louisiana. But when we moved to West Virginia, we were kind of like, it felt like we were here. We were going to be here a while. And that was the first time in my life I could remember feeling restless. Knowing that God had something more for me. And it was such a conflict because I loved where I was. I loved Huntington. I loved my friends. When we moved the end of my 11th grade year, I was devastated. But in my spirit, I knew that there was God had called me for more than this. And I know those that know me won't believe it, but I was really painfully shy. at school and places like that. Never at home, obviously, but.
Yeah, when the teacher told me, I was what?
What are you talking about? I always just felt this stirring in my heart, and I always just knew, I'm like, it's not here, and I tried so many, the worldly angles with the gifts that God gave me, you know, going down this way in music or whatever, and theater, and realizing when it finally came to my understanding that he used it to give him glory. I mean, it felt like it took forever for me to get here, so I've been on this long, restless journey, but so glad I didn't try to like push that down and ignore it, because society tells women, truthfully, like, well, you know, settle down, get married. What are you doing? I mean, really, if you haven't had a career by now, if you haven't made it in singing by now, you know, not my business.
Well, so, you know, we dive back into Joseph, and we're looking at Joseph after the dream has come to fruition. Not necessarily his dream, but Pharaoh's dream, right? That, okay, this is what's going to happen, and it did. God brought it to pass. And so when we look at Joseph and we look at what was happening with him on page 144, one of the great questions I loved was, what motivated Joseph? What were some of his passions? And that's a hard question unless you're really, really trying to discern from the scripture. But
I think he was passionate about doing what he didn't get.
okay,
He didn't get that support from his family. They drove him away. They wanted to get rid of him.
it's really
And
good.
he turned around and he loved on everyone he was exposed to, whether it was in prison or his family in the end when they were all starting to.
So Joseph basically do unto others as you have to do to yourself. And he saw, you know, he saw that he was mistreated. He turned it around. He could have, you're right, he could have taken that and been bitter and I'm in power now and this is the way it's going to be. But yet he was compassionate to people who had been in his place. That's good, really good. Anybody else?
He's passionate about God.
Who's passionate about God? Absolutely.
He believed that promise.
On page 145, she talks about the root of passion. And I thought this was really good. She says the word passion originates in the Latin word meaning to suffer, referring to Christ's suffering on the cross. Passions have become nearly synonyms with pleasure in modern culture. But when we consider that passion is originally defined as the moment of the deepest suffering of Christ for our good, it lifts the word from human desires to a momental love willing to suffer.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying with Joseph. He suffered terribly in the hands of his brothers.
And they built his passion out of it. Absolutely. Do you think that there are times in your life that you have went through suffering that now you can see God using that to be a passion? I think that that is one of the places, you know, when we talked about suffering a few weeks back, you know, that was one of the pushes that she had, is that maybe there is good that can come out of this bad. And, you know, Christ is the ultimate example of that. There was good that came out of the ultimate bad. Let's see here. So 150, consider. What makes your heart race?
And I see cruelty done to other people or animals.
Okay.
It's them.
Somebody else.
Seeing someone in pain.
Seeing someone in pain.
Mine's about the kids, like when you hear, especially babies. That just really hurts me.
We had a rough day yesterday. I'm going to share with you later.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
Nice.
I think I finally got Martin to sign up for the foster kid classes after I came home with this story. What about you, Kristen?
I think along the same lines, it's seeing so much suffering in the world. I have a lot of compassion for all of that, but it's in the backyard that really, really strikes a chord with me, because I feel like sometimes it's easier for us to reach out further than right around.
Absolutely.
I got watching a 14-year-old trying to find her place. Yeah.
Oh, you're in trouble, Miss D. Because right before I started Bible study, our new youth director came down and he said, I said, we're talking about gifts and passions today. And he said, I need more volunteers in my youth group.
And we do.
So you might be in trouble. God's putting that on your heart. I know you're talking about your 14-year-old, but maybe, and that's too, like, I think sometimes we need to think about, I think we probably have a pretty socially justice-minded group of people here in general, but, our passions, singing can be a passion. The way that your heart fills and flutters when you're up in front of everybody and you see that you're leading them in worship and you're seeing that they are getting it and embracing the Holy Spirit. You can see that look when it happens. I mean, I know Kristen knows this probably better than me, but when you look across and you can see people experiencing Christ, there is deep passion in that. There is deep emotion in that, and I know you've seen that as well. There is deep passion in mothering. When you see your child or your grandchild or your great-grandchild
Making a bad decision.
Right, making a bad decision in their lives, and the passion that comes that you just want to say, honey, if you could just listen to me. I know you think you're right. We can save you from all of this heartache,
We already did it.
We already screwed up that bad, so please listen. But
the other thing that really got to me was the beheadings that we
so like the injustices of religious injustice and martyrdom, and yeah, it's awful. Absolutely. And when it comes to that, like ISIS and then the refugee crisis, that's something that, if you follow me on Facebook, then you know that I am pretty passionate about the refugee crisis, and I feel pretty helpless, but it does make my heart race. It does make me, it just makes my stomach turn upside down to think,
My problem is I see all the problems, and we are in such a fortunate community. And there's people like you who are reaching out for the community, and then we got people fussing about cupcakes on Facebook. And sugar, and we need to have a small cupcake, not a big cupcake, or a donut hole, not a big. I'm like, all you people with your donut holes, go out and take on a foster kid. Go out to the Hope Center and help somebody and do something actual real. Your kid eating that extra little bit of sugar that day, and they don't have that many days. It's not like they're partying every day. Oh gosh,
it made some news, right?
They're so passionate about these cupcakes and stuff, and they're so, crazy about all this. And I'm just like, take all that energy that you're putting into this kind of stuff. And yes, our kids do need to eat better. I do agree with that. That also has to do with the government and what they're throwing in our, the
lunches. Yeah.
It's not about the party. So take all that energy and put it into something worthwhile.
You're right.
It drives me nuts, because I just
You're
want
right.
to say, just eat your cake and be quiet.
It's just so trivial when you look at some of the
It's so trivial.
the hardships from these people. I can't even watch some of these programs, and they programs, it's like 80 and stuff. They go to such measures just to give water to people. They have clothing on.
They have it.
I mean, it's glad we have toilet paper in the bathroom. Some of these people don't have anything.
And I think that we get so, I'm going to use it, bubbled in, that we forget that there are people outside. There are, there's the hashtag, if you social media, the first world problems, right? Where it's like, my internet is too slow.
Yeah. That's
You
what I
know?
tell my kid. I'm like, do you understand? You have your own bedroom, and this is how I got on the internet. It makes really loud noise. Yeah. It's like, just because the internet is lagging during your game does not mean you need a new $700 computer to play your game.
Right.
Just
And, you know, it's a balance because, of course, with our children, we want them to have the things that are fun and nice. And, you know, I struggle with, am I spoiling them? You know, are they going to, you know, how can I make sure that they are not just entitled little brats, you know, like seriously, like, you know, when Jude is like, you know, screaming at me because I won't let him play with the iPad. Well, you're 5 years old. Go outside. But I don't want to go outside. Outside's boring. I don't care, you know, but he hates it, you know. And I think that there are passion in big things, and I think there are small things too, though, that makes your heart race.
Waste. I'm passionate about waste.
Waste, okay?
Yeah, I can't stand it. My children, you know, when they throw away food because it's been in the refrigerator 2 days or something. I just can't stand it.
And that's probably
You don't have a lot of
Generation
generation
thing,
too.
Right.
My work is to the standard because I would make something last, you know,
Oh, yeah.
for days.
Well,
and
And then with
days.
the expiration date,
reinvent
you pour the milk in a pitcher. So then you could, you know, whatever. That's why I
That's
like milk.
hilarious.
Never heard
Yeah.
yellow.
I used to do the next to my house, they always check.
Do they say?
Do you know how long you've had this?
Mom would have mold all over.
Oh, it's just not.
Just cut it off, right?
I'm like, I can't cut it. There will be no more cheese because I'm not.
I would reinvent it, you know, into another dish.
Oh, yes.
I remember one Thanksgiving, my mom, she had made mashed potatoes, and they were like fantastic mashed potatoes. They tasted so good, and everybody was like, Joan, like, these are just fantastic mashed potatoes. And like, we got home later, and she was like, yeah, the milk, it's like 4 days old. Best mashed potatoes ever. But, you know, whatever. She's gonna kill me. So when you see her,
Yeah.
you never heard that story.
Okay.
My mom is super shy. Anyway, our passions, they get our heart beating, and then we have to figure out what we do with that, right? And so the question at the bottom, what do you think your main passion in life are currently? So what are the things you can be doing right now or already doing right now? I mean, I think for some of us, we have so many, right? Like I could list you 40 things that probably could get me like on a tirade right now. So I have to pick and choose, right? Then you have those people who are just not even looking for a passion, you know, or they're misguided in their passions, or their passions don't have any way to bring glory to anybody but themselves, right? And so we live in a society that wants people to be passionate, but passion doesn't necessarily bring honor and glory to God. So I don't know if anybody wrote anything that said, like, what's the thing right now? Miss Sue?
Because it was a year ago, plus I was struggling so with my mom and where she was and my response to it. It was very difficult. 3.5 years with her once I moved her. And getting the caregiver group going because I needed that so desperately for me, and it turned out to be so powerful for so many people.
Awesome. So you took your struggle and you said, I can't be the only one feeling this way. There's got to be others. Yesterday, I don't know if you got to go and see the opening of the launch. Oh,
I went to
Oh. Did you share with her about the new Thriving in Place that Celebration Foundation is looking at? It is for those who are 55 and older who are living in Celebration. So, I mean, I don't know. I know you're in Celebration. I know you're in Celebration. But it's just they just come up with this fantastic way of building community among folks who maybe aren't able to do that as well. So,
the same thing.
It's called Thriving in Place, and it's for those who are 55 and older, just to connect. And there's transportation, there's errand service, $1 a day.
Yeah.
You know, it's nothing, I think. You know, and if I even feel like, and this is where I just say things and see if it happens, but like I feel like if we had somebody in the church that could not do $1 a day, that's a good place to use my benevolence fund.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good place where I can say, okay. But Carol, she's already 2 steps ahead of the game for me, because she's telling me that she's talking to them about doing a corporate membership, that we would just have, that our church members would automatically be members of Thriving in Place. So Carol's, 100 steps ahead of me, but just phenomenal way to minister to people. And it was born out of some people who, came to her and said, my parents can't live here anymore, or I can't live here anymore because there's nothing for me, but we don't want to leave our family and our friends. So how can we thrive here? How can we make this work without having to move to a retirement home or assisted living or whatever? And they brought up an excellent point that, when Celebration opened its doors, that most of the folks who moved in were already in their, early 50s to early 60s. And now here we are 20 years later. We'll do the math. That means that those folks are in their 80s. And so we need to be making sure that this is a place where the founding folks can still be. And I just think I was so impressed and so happy for them, and just watching that work. Other folks, where are your passions right now? What are you doing?
For me, obviously, being a worship director, I'm really wanting to teach that worship is a lifestyle. It's not just a Sunday morning experience. And so God's been really pressing it on my heart that I might even do a once-a-month class open to anybody.
Singers?
No, anybody. Listen,
Crystal wants to sing. That's new. That's a passion. There you go.
Because I don't like that kind of, I didn't grow, okay, I was in choir young, but we didn't sing like that. It wasn't that choir sound, even though we sing the same songs. It wasn't in a choir style.
Was it country?
Well,
Is it more contemporary?
no, I grew up in a traditional church. It's just that they were country and they didn't sound like a choir. Like when I go to Dave's Baptist Church, it sounded his mom and then seemed like an actual choir, like the way they do the music and stuff. But we sang more just in our own tone to sing the music. I don't know, it's just different. So because the other choirs would come in and be like, oh, it sound exactly like a choir, but you're singing the same song to the voice. So it's like, I don't know. It wasn't a band or anything. It was still a choir, but it was just different. So,
Well, maybe you can talk to her about worship in the woods.
Yeah.
So, definitely.
So yeah, sang with Kim Honk one time, that was great. So.
Who hasn't sang
That's
karaoke?
for me. That's what I love to do. That's really why one of my biggest passions is that if we really look at worship as a lifestyle, the icing on the cake is only to come into corporate worship together and lift up praises to God, whether it's the scripture or the song. I want to get us away from thinking worship is only about the singing or the playing or whatever, because if we walk around in daily worship, we are going to draw people to us. They're going to want to know what is different, what is it about you? And then when we come in and corporately worship, the release and the presence of the Holy Spirit, it's transformational. So I really want that from the little kids, because I'm working with my youth band, and we just launched 2 new kids that I call Worship in the Wings. So they kind of did this thing for a little while, and we launched them this week, and it was awesome because one kid has never been exposed to God or Jesus, and he really gets it. Like, I don't know that he knows Jesus yet, but he understands that it's not about how great he plays the drums. It's about
Awesome.
worship. That's my passion.
You wrote down singing?
I wrote down a lot of fostering is also, of course, right now my things. But I do like a lot of things, and I go through cycles. My husband's like, I wish you'd just pick something. And I'm like, there is no rule for a passion that you have to pick it and stick with it throughout your days. I'm like, 1 minute I want to redecorate the
kids' bedrooms. That's, you know, just buried all into that at that moment, and then the next thing they're doing cakes. You know, so these aren't necessarily always about God, but they're just, I'm wrapped up in whatever that is right then. So, you know, now it's, you know, fostering kids right now. So sometimes it's reading, and you can read out of a book for 2 years.
What about you, Melody? Did you write anything down there?
I'm going to try and getting back and doing something with service and working and not being isolated from anything else. You know, I can get by, but it's not, I'm not networking. I'm losing my connections.
You know, and I said this to Connie, who's on the Facebook group. She mentioned a similar thing, that she's kind of stuck at home. And I was in a meeting on Monday night where they were talking about how we often think that to build community, we have to go outside of our homes. But what if, since you can't go anywhere, you brought your community to you? And maybe it's 3 or 4 other women at your house that you decide to do this Bible study with, or you decide to have dinner with, or you decide to do a craft with, bake a cake, cooking club, whatever. That we often think that to build community, we have to go somewhere. But that some of us are called to bring the community to us. And that comes with its own type of thing, like, you know, you have to, you know, clean your house and get things ready and blah, blah, blah. But I think that's something that I often forget too. Like, I often think, okay, I have to do something big and flashy and in front of everybody. You know?
No, we have s'mores in the backyard.
Exactly.
Everybody comes, and sometimes there's 30 people all of a sudden in my backyard because everybody has 1,000 children. So,
We want to come.
yeah,
That sounds awesome.
I mean, just s'mores in the backyard.
S'mores in the backyard.
And it just happens, you know, it's like, oh, you're doing s'mores, okay, we'll pop over. So, you know.
And I think we forget that. I think we think our passion has to be something large and something dynamic and something crazy. But the little things that we can do to build community with others can also change the world. I'm going to tell you one story, and then we're going to watch this, and then we're going to be done because it'll be 11 o'clock and I'll let you have to go. One time in seminary, we had taken communion. And one of my professors, Robert Tuttle, who is just this incredible person in general, turns to me after communion is over, and he points to the crumbs that are on the carpet, right? Because you know when you take communion, it's often a little messy. And he says, even those crumbs will change the world if you let them. And I've never forgotten that, because even the smallest thing can bring glory back to God. And so with that, let's hear what Jenny has to say about passions.
What need do you see around you, and how could you meet it? And God has specifically placed our family in a community that is growing and changing. Just like 2 weeks ago, I was sitting in church and I looked around and there were young people and they just looked bored. I just love helping every person in the church feel that they are valuable. We're in a unique opportunity to minister to those families. And they just think that Jesus is like rules and regulations. And the church, we need everyone to run smoothly and creatively and to do all the great things that God has called us to do. We can see a really big dream for our community and our town and our area. I could be the person that gets a group of girls together and just talks about Jesus and talks about who Jesus really is, and not about the rules and the regulations. I always heard the word passion, and I thought that meant
things that we love. I've always thought that that word meant possibly love or things like sex. And I've always thought that if I could find my passion, the things that I love, the things that make my heart move, the things that I am passionate about, that would fulfill me too. And I honestly went into the study, like when I laid it out, the different pieces, I went into it with somewhat of that as my idea for this week. And then I got to study it, and teach it, and live it. And I looked it up in Webster's. And I have it all. See, the word originally in Latin meant to suffer. In fact, if you look up this word, Webster's dictionary, the very first definition it will have is the sufferings of Christ. First definition in Webster's dictionary. And the next one is just suffering. Now on down, 5 and 6 and 7 is love, sex, and everything we love. So it does put it in there and it knows that we have majorly flipped that definition in that word upside down in our society. True. Yes. When I was a mom of young kids, and it was right before we prayed the prayer anything. My husband and I laid in our bed at night and we said, God, you have us. You can do anything you want with us. It was very, very scary, really painful, and continues to be, and yet the most awesome thing we have ever done in our lives. Our lives are radically different because we prayed that prayer. But right before we prayed that, literally 2 weeks before we prayed it, I started a blog. I don't even remember why, honestly. I'm sure it was something stupid and shallow and selfish, and I put it up. And my first blog entry I went back and read this week. And it was called Changing the Channel. And it began that I was listening on the radio about kids that could be fed and have an education if I would spend about what we spend on our cable bill. And I turned the channel. I didn't feel convicted. I didn't feel moved. I just turned the channel. I just didn't want to hear it. I wrote about that. And I didn't write with much conviction, honestly. And then, I don't know if it was that night or the next day, I met and heard about Katie Davis for the first time, and I'm on the bathroom floor and reading her blog, and everything about me changed. My heart woke up. Because what I had pushed away for so long was that most people have as good or better a life than I have. I had to say something to myself. I had to tell myself something. I had to, convince myself in some way to turn that channel, that there wasn't any implication to that child that mattered in my life, that I could actually help. There wasn't a need that I could meet. I just think we're missing the very best parts of life. I feel like a burden. My little boy, pretty funny to think about him right now, telling that story. We prayed anything and we brought home a little boy from Rwanda, God's child for us that I would have missed. And so he comes into our lives, and that boy tears the world up. The whole world. He is crazy man. Watch out, kindergarten next year. Good luck. But that boy is the most joyful, bright, lighted kid, but he hates to clean up. He will be a tornado. He will run through the house, and literally, I don't understand, the entire house is a mess. I just cleaned it, and the entire house is a mess. And not messy with a purpose, blocks. Messy like a cabinet is pushed over. Things are cut with scissors that belong to me and were hanging in my closet. It's getting better, but watch out, kindergarten. We're working on it. and he's such a mess, and he won't clean up. And so I send him outside, and there are balls all over our yard. I don't even know how he owns so many balls. I'm sure they're stolen from someone else. And so there's balls all over our yard, and I said, buddy, can you go put all those balls on the trampoline? And you would have thought I asked him to starve. Just put the balls on the trampoline. Like, ball, trampoline. You love both. Like, just put them together. Miserable. I watch him from the window, and it's the most painful thing I've ever seen. He picks up a ball, carries it over here, puts it on the trampoline, does another one. But y'all, he does every ball. He walks back in, and he looks at me and goes, Mom, I am awesome. I'm the best cleaner ever. And everything about him lit up. We were built to meet need. We were built to meet need. And guess what? There's a life. You don't have to go to Africa, and you don't have to look very far to see it. Our passions are most often birthed out of our suffering or out of somebody else's. You don't know what you're passionate about. You need your heart to wake up. Joseph, he had a passion. He had a God that seemed to remain unusually close to him through suffering for years. They were close. He trusted him enough to receive his hard life. He trusted God enough to receive his life. And it wasn't easy. He's in his place with his people. And finally, King calls for him because he needs this guy that's in prison's threads. He needs the random little pieces of this guy's life. So the king of Egypt calls for a prisoner. Joseph comes out, and the king says, I've had this dream, and I've had it over and over again, and I don't know what to do with it. It is haunting me. And he tells Joseph the dream, and I've heard that you have a gift. I've heard that you have something that could meet a need for me. Joseph says, I do. I have a God that will help me meet your need. So the king tells him. And the implications of that dream lead Joseph and the king together to save enough food for years to support a generation of people. Many, many lives, physical needs, hurting bellies are fed. See, I love that Jesus came to earth and he didn't just walk up and say, repent, change your life. He would pick up mud and he would put it on people's eyes and they were blind and then they could see. And he would break bread before he gives one of the greatest sermons of all time. And he says, I think everybody's hungry, and honestly, hungry people don't listen well, so let me take care of them. Let's take care of what's real and legit and just feed them. So I'll break bread and some fish, and we'll take time. I'll take time out of my sermon to make sure that they are fed. See, I think that we over-spiritualize things sometimes, y'all. There is a passion for my children to have their uniform that they need for school every day. There's a passion that my children flourish, that my children have what they need, and therefore I engage with them on practical and spiritual levels. You hear me? We engage in our passions on practical and spiritual levels. Because there's a need. There's always a physical need and an emotional need and a spiritual need. And I don't care what your need, just go find something to meet. And every one of us, this is the cool part about God. Back to 1 Corinthians 12, where he talks about this body and all the different parts. And he's so clear. He's like, guys, you're all different. Quit looking around and wanting to be somebody else. Quit wishing for something else. Do your part. And part of the way he built the eyes and the ears and the fingers and the toes and the hands and the stomach and everything is that he actually put something in us that makes our heart beat fast. He puts passion in us. And sometimes we know him and sometimes we don't. And I'll be honest, laundry is just not one that makes my heart beat fast, not even kind of. But my little girl coming in my room crying because she happens to be in 6th grade, and that's hard. God built me special for that. And I don't know what he built you special for. You can't fill every need. You can't fill every need in the people's lives around you, and you can't fill every need in the world, and we all know that. But we can meet needs somewhere. So what makes your heart beat faster? When was the last time that you met a need? And when you did, you felt so much joy, even if it was hard. See, Joseph had a passion. He looked around and he knew when he heard the dream that everyone would die. And so he worked hard to meet need around him. So, what's your passion? If you don't know, if you're listening and you're like, I'm in, I want in, I do not know what to go do. Here's what I would say. Go do something. Anything. I don't care what. Something small, something big, I don't care. Just go do something. And you know what's going to happen? Your heart will beat faster. One day, I don't know if it'll be the first day, I don't know if it'll be the second week, I don't know when, I don't know if it'll be the 15th thing you try, but I promise you, our God built us to respond to particular needs, and when we do, everything about us feels right, because when something is built for a purpose and it functions in that purpose, there is no sweeter spot. I know that some of you want your hearts to wake up and you don't know how. And you don't know what it would feel like if they did. And the beautiful mystery of our God, turn to Ezekiel. This is important. Ezekiel 36, verse 26. He's promising a day that God's going to live inside of people. He promises a day when hearts will wake up. He says, I'm going to give you a new heart and a new spirit within you. And I will remove the heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. That is the heart that you have if you believe in Jesus. You don't have a heart of stone. You have a heart of flesh. And so all you have to do is figure out what is making it hard and cold and numb. What is holding it back? And ask him to break it. Because he would like your heart to be like his, to love his people and to meet need everywhere, to meet your need that he built you for. And in closing, I think this is pretty crucial. Romans 5, verse 6. For while we were so weak, at the right time, Christ died for the very best of us. No, for the very worst of us, for the ones that are cold-hearted and hard-hearted and don't care about starving children in Africa and don't want to mess up their house with a wild man running through their house with scissors. He died for all of us, our hard hearts, for the ungodly. Though perhaps for a good person, one would dare even to die. But God shows his love for us, his passion for us, his insane, reckless, crazy, radical, going to get us. The ones with hard hearts and numb hearts and boring hearts and even really, really dark, evil hearts. He shows his love for us in that while we were still that bad, he died for us, suffered for us. So, is it worth it? There's an arrow. It's going. Whether you want it to or not, it is going. And it will end somewhere. I know that we will not wonder for thousands and millions of years if it was worth it. We will think it was the most ridiculous question that we ever asked. He gave us a new heart. Do something with it. Do anything with it. And I promise you, your life won't be quite as boring. There will still be laundry. I can promise that. I'm not going anywhere. But it will not be so boring. It will not be so boring. It will not be wasted.
Everything that does not come from faith is sin. We are unable to move without God. God moves us. We just have to let him. God breathes faith into us, and only then do we move. If you are anxious because you don't know your passion, or don't know if you are living them or even could, stop. We cannot love. We cannot know God. We cannot know ourselves. We cannot change. We cannot bleed for others. We cannot move without God's Spirit moving in and through us to accomplish God's purposes. We run with God's strength, vision, heart, and power. Let's pray. Gracious and holy God, that you would equip us in the way that you have designed us, that you would make us keenly aware of our passion, and that you would show us our next right step on how to live into that passion. That you would open our eyes to the brokenness, to the need around us, whatever it be, God. It doesn't have to be something huge. It doesn't have to be opening an outreach center for homeless families. It doesn't have to be going through a full adoption of a foster child. It doesn't have to be anything except for where you tell us to step next. And maybe it is huge. Or maybe it's just offering a warm smile to someone who looks lonely. Maybe it's both. And so God, I just ask that throughout this week until we meet again, that you will show us where you have put us and why. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. We'll see you next week. Last class. Bye, guys.